Welcome back to PlayStation Corner, my name's Luke, and today on the channel we're going to be taking a look at Fantavision 202X, a unique puzzle title which is all about detonating fireworks, creating explosive chains and racking up those high scores, and it's a follow-up to what I consider to be a true hidden gem of the PlayStation 2 era of gaming, but it's definitely one of those easy to pick up but harder to master type of games. Without further ado though, drop a like and subscribe for more PlayStation 5 and PSVR2 content alongside regular deals videos and top PlayStation lists, and let's get started. So to start with then, it's worth noting that the game supports both standard TV based gameplay as well as PSVR2 functionality, and I'll be showing a little of both today, but the majority of my time was spent playing the PSVR2 version, and in VR you have the option of using both the TV mode's thumbstick controls, which have you directing a line on the screen to link up fireworks, or alternatively pointing a laser using the Sense controller itself, but each has its drawbacks and benefits, which I'll get onto shortly. To start with though, depending on whether or not you're playing in VR mode, you have two game modes to choose from. The first being the standard one-player mode, which is playable in both TV and VR modes and features a zoomed out camera perspective, giving you a good oversight of the action, and the second being dynamic mode, available only in VR, which offers a much closer viewing angle, getting you right up amongst the explosions, though this does mean that you'll be looking around a lot more to keep track of things. Once you've completed the easy version of the game, which contains 8 individual levels split into 4 different zones, you'll then unlock hard mode, which from what I could tell ramps up the difficulty a notch by reducing the time that fireworks stay on screen. But both modes contain the exact same gameplay mechanics, and I'd say if it's your first time playing, it's well worth watching the tutorial videos just to get a handle on the basics, but in all honesty it's not overly complicated. Now in each level your objective is to string together chains of 3 or more coloured flares before detonating them to produce a delightful little light show and earn yourself some points. Flares come in either red, green or blue, and you can only actually chain together matching colours. However, you do also have a 4th wildcard flare which can be used to switch between colours, so it's all about working out the optimal order in which to link flares in order to create the biggest chains possible. The real skill with this one though comes in learning how best to utilise the different firework types, as some rain down showers of sparks whilst others explode into star shapes, and any similarly coloured flares caught within these explosions are then automatically primed to explode, which in turn reduces the amount of change you need to create and thus reduces your overall workload. There are also bonus power-ups which appear, which not only act like wildcards and can be used within chains, but also restore your energy or fill up your star mine meter with letters, which once full activates the star mine bonus round, leading to some big point gains. That though in a nutshell is how things work with this one, and like I said it's pretty easy to pick up and play and you should have very little issue getting through its easy mode, but beneath its simplicity lies a decent amount of depth, and going for those high scores definitely requires some skillful gameplay and quick reactions. Now I won't deny that the control scheme in Fantavision can take a little getting used to and has always been a little bit fiddly, especially when trying to quickly and accurately tag flares to create those big chains before they expire, but the benefit of the thumbstick controls is that it automatically highlights flares of the same colour when you point at them. The VR controls on the other hand offer some additional speed and accuracy. However, I did have a habit of locking onto the wildcards with these when I didn't intend to, and I did encounter some issues with them due to the thumbstick controls still being active, and they're so sensitive that if you so much as touch the thumbstick whilst trying to detonate flares, your on-screen laser pointer will then disappear for a couple of seconds, making you unable to tag new flares. You are able to rebind the detonator button, but I thought it a little odd that you couldn't just disable the thumbstick entirely. Overall though, the control scheme is pretty intuitive and the gameplay is as enjoyable and as solid as it's ever been, and it has that kind of Tetris-like Zen-like appeal to it, but it also demands a decent amount of focus to keep those chains going, utilising the bonus power-ups and wildcards and those explosions to ensure your workload doesn't become overwhelming. In short, if you've played the original, it's the same Fantavision you know and love, but in a way this is also the main issue of the game. Other than the visual upgrades and the additional VR support, There's very little difference between this and the PS2 version, and I thought it a real shame that after all these years, unlike Tetris, they haven't even attempted to iterate on the formula to implement new game modes or features, and this inevitably leaves it feeling a little bit light on content. The game does have leaderboards which track your scores in each game mode, but again, these are only local, so it's also kind of missing that competitive element to really keep you going back for more. With all that said though, I was a big fan of Fantavision back in the day, and it's great to see a return to a modern audience, despite it being more of a one-to-one remake rather than a new spin on the classic formula. But even to this day it remains one of the most original puzzle experiences ever created, and if you choose to pick it up, no doubt one that you'll ever play. So when it comes to VR comfort levels, the playstyle with this one is sitting, and it only uses a single Sense controller, so you can really just sit back and relax whilst playing and then switch hands if needs be, if for whatever reason your wrists get tired. Now in terms of motion sickness, I'd say that Fantavision is definitely towards the lower end of the spectrum. The camera movement is slow in this one, with you floating your way through cityscapes, space scenes and abstract environments filled with rotating geometric shapes, which are probably the most disorientating of the three. And the whole flying thing might be an issue for those with fear of heights. But overall it's a pretty relaxing experience. Most of your attention will probably be on the fireworks, and so for most people, motion sickness shouldn't be too much of an issue with this one. So visually then, the game is pretty much identical to the original when it comes to the layout of the user interface, but it's received a complete visual overhaul with its environments and explosions. The colours are a lot more vibrant, and the levels themselves, whilst sticking pretty close to the original selection, contain a lot more detail, with things like fireworks reflected on the surface of the waters, the space levels featuring massive robots and space stations, and the final black hole level of the original replaced with the abstract shape environments that I mentioned. But it all makes for some really nice eye candy. The light shows are what you're really playing this one though for, and for the most part they don't disappoint, especially when playing in dynamic mode where you're surrounded by bursts of colour. My only criticism is that in VR mode it sometimes seemed like the fireworks failed to detonate, or more like they did but didn't create an explosion or were cut off early, and this may have been intentional to maintain a healthy frame rate, but it was a little disappointing to get very little bang for your buck with some of the larger chains. Overall though, some really nice visuals with this one, and definitely a big improvement over the original. Now, much like the original in terms of audio, there's not a whole lot that can be said when it comes to exploding fireworks. They're just bangs followed by some crackling sparks. But the sound effects are definitely more defined in this one and have a lot more oomph to them, even with the standard in-ear headphones which come with a VR headset. The rest of the sound effects are all pretty much identical and work well to give you some good audio feedback, but the original male announcer has been replaced with a charming female voice who kind of reminded me of the "Where Did You Learn to Fly" lady from the game Cybermorph on the Atari Jaguar, if any of you are actually old enough to remember that one. But she does the job well enough, and when it comes to the music, the soundtrack in 22X is also a little more chill. It still has some of that upbeat funkiness to it, featuring a blend of progressive electronica and funk with a bit more tempo towards the end levels, but it's got some nice tunes to play along to, and overall the audio levels feel a lot more balanced in this one. So the final verdict with this one then, and like I said, Fantavision 22X does very little to distance itself from the original, sticking firmly to the classic formula of prime fireworks, blow them up and earn yourself a high score, and it worked before and works well here. However, I can't deny that I was a little disappointed to see no attempt to elevate the mechanics in some way, either by putting a new twist on the standard formula, or even just introducing a couple of new firework types, and a lack of additional game modes or online leaderboards really limits the replayability with this one. That's not to say that it isn't replayable, as you can always improve your game by creating bigger and better chains and boost your high score by mastering its mechanics, but the bottom line is that with only 8 stages and 2 difficulties for you to tackle, it is still pretty light on content. As a puzzle game though, its mechanics still hold up to this day. The controls can be a little finicky to start with, but like Tetris, it's a great game to zone out with the lights and sounds offering a pleasurable multisensory experience, especially whilst in VR mode. And so today, Fantavision 202X is getting a very reasonable 7 out of 10 from me. It's an old classic which I really enjoyed diving back into, and which I'm sure fans of the original will have fond memories of and still find a lot to like with it, but those new to the series may just come away wanting a little more from it. With that said though, were you a fan of Fantavision back in the day, and have you or will you be picking this remake up? Let me know down in the comments section below, and let me know what classic puzzle games you feel are worthy of a revival. Until next time though, drop a like and subscribe for more PlayStation 5 and PSVR2 content alongside weekly deals videos, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks everyone, take care.